of the Dakar sees Jean-Louis Schlesser back on top of the timing sheets, but only with a little help from his friends. Whilst in the motorcycles, it was the hardest day that some of the professionals had ever done. No time to enjoy the views on the Dakar yesterday as everybody approached the Atlantic port town of Nouakchott. Even the camels looked disinterested. Mauritania at its best. Now here we see motorcycle number 39, Frenchman Eric Rosselette, going through one of the very quiet villages and eventually, unfortunately for him, stopping. Another motorcycle stops to say if he can help. And Eric's replying, well, it's not an oil problem, but maybe a clutch problem or something similar. Gloves off and working on the bike. He says that since day one he's had problems. The tyres in Morocco, the carburation broke the other day, and now it continues. I don't know what it is. Another rider stops to see if he can help. And Eric asks, have you got an 8mm socket spanner? Because I think I might have an engine gone. The other rider duly obliges as the rest of the field speed through. He's having trouble getting the nut undone. Today is the end. Maybe I go back home. He flags down Frédéric Moncassin, the former Tour de France yellow jersey holder. I think I've broken the engine, but if I get to the finish on the back of a truck, will I be kicked out? Frédéric answers, no, just penalties, just as if you had missed a control point. Do it! So now, with another problem on his hands, he manages to speak French with one of the locals. He says, I need to get to Nouakchott. Shows him the map. Anybody available? And the local says, yeah, well, I'll have a go. But quickly, says Eric. The locals converse amongst themselves. And then you've just got to barter. How much will it be? It says 60,000 in local currency. Now that's approximately $300 US, which is about 170 pounds.
1760 balles, trop cher.
Oh, too expensive.
Trop cher.
Just like Monty Python, you got to barter. Okay, then, this local says, we'll go and find a car. But once more, Eric says, hurry up.
Qu'est-ce que vous avez donné est insuffisant. D'après les calculs. Achète la voiture. Regarde, là, il vide. Pêche-toi.
Whilst they're waiting for the car, everybody then offers Eric some tea or some coffee, black or even white coffee.
Non, pas de thé. Hein? Café. Non, café noir, café lait. Faut que je sois avant 6 heures à Nouakchott.
I have to be at Nouakchott by 6 this
avant
evening.
6 heures.
But then the worst sight of all for a Dakar competitor, the broom wagon arrives. This is the truck that collects anybody who has broken down. Okay, okay, says Eric. It looks as if it's finished. I'll come with you. It's over. I'm terribly disappointed, and I've got tears in my eyes. And once his machine has been loaded onto the back of the truck, he jumps in too, and he is going to Nouakchott, not under his own steam. His rally is over. But then, just after the broom wagon has disappeared, Coventry's finest arrives, a Land Rover, the transport that the locals had arranged. But it's all too late. One of the longest stages of the Dakar, Nouakchott to Tidjika in Mauritania, from the port of Nouakchott further inland. And with the massive landmass of Africa being what it is, the temperature will be rising. 580 kilometers. Now the day started in unusual circumstances, with all sorts of currencies being put down on the table, as we have Jordi Arcarons in an arm wrestle with Fabrizio Mioni. Well, I reckon that a KTM won that battle. The dunes were certainly to play a major part of the day's action, and likewise the wind that had got up. Problems immediately for the first three motorcycles on the road. Mioni, Arcarons and South Africa's Alfie Cox, realising that this hanging valley had no way out except to go along the ridge, or maybe even back down. Jordi Arcarons taking his own route. And this is extreme skiing of another kind. Fabrizio Mioni and Jordi Arcarons teaming up though. And the pair of them doing well, with Mioni navigating a little better than Arcarons, although Mioni, being a lot bigger, got stuck in the sand a couple of times. Here we are on board with Patrick Sirijol. He says today it'll be a long day, and I think that we will get over a lot of sand, but we'll have to manage our fuel consumption. Now everything's good, and I take everything in my stride. It's a pleasure, but I will manage any difficulties just one by one. This morning I started ready to attack. The winner of the stage yesterday, Sweden's PG Lundmark on his production KTM, was not going as quick in the right direction today. Lundmark going off on his own compass bearing regularly, according to the other riders. Here you can see he's absolutely lost. However, Alfie Cox did come over a dune to find Lundmark in the middle of the dunes, completely knocked out, visor knocked off, blooded his nose, and Lundmark losing a little bit of time today. He ended up over an hour and 50 slower. Problems for Kari Tienen, another Scandinavian, but this time it was terminal. His engine had seized, he was out of the rally. Shame for Tienen, because he was going like a train up until that point. His teammate Sala likewise had fuel problems, But Carlos de Gavado, he got fuel in the air filter at one of the refueling points, and then the massive sandstorm came that precluded a lot of people's progress. Cyril Desprez, he was in the lead until about 30 kilometers before the end of the 580 kilometer stage, but then the Frenchman fell twice in quick succession. Alfie Cox saying that this stage really sorted the men from the boys, and he expected to see a lot of the privateers not starting tomorrow morning. At the refueling during the sandstorm, he said he could barely get the nozzle in the tank. It was that bad. Esteve Puyol eventually was in 6th position behind Cox. John Deacon likewise reporting that the sandstorm, you couldn't even see the roadbook in front of your face. And for America's Jimmy Lewis, recovering slowly but surely with his injured left wrist. He had a safe day and got through the stage in 8th place, just half an hour back. Brucey on the Works KTM, he was in 9th, but Arcarons was the victor. Johnny Campbell, the other American, again for the 2nd day in succession, was the leading Honda in 11th. Arcarons eventually won the stage, but only by a minute ahead of Mioni. De Gavado 3rd, Desprez on the leading BMW now in 4th, and Alfie Cox 5th. Mioni continues to lead overall from Arcarons, De Gavado 3rd, Puyol and Cox.
Bad just got worse. Punctures, overheating, broken axles, wrong directions, collisions. Exclusive to Supersport, the Paris-Dakar Rally was proudly sponsored by Total Quartz Lubricants. Here's my worse. Punctures, overheating, broken axles, wrong directions, collisions. Exclusive to Supersport, the Paris-Dakar Rally is proudly sponsored by Total Quartz Lubricants.
Jordi Arcarons here at the stage finish telling us it was one of the hardest days I've ever had on a motorcycle. He always had to be on the pegs, standing up. It was very difficult also because of the sandstorm. I couldn't see anything, so instead, during the sandstorm, we had to follow the GPS instead. Soft sand and camel grass were everywhere, and a few different valleys where you had to try and find a way between each of them. But obviously, I'm very happy because, of course, I have won the stage.
Pasa que Fabrizio Meoni controlla mucho y es difícil sacarle tiempo.
Io è andato tutto bene,
Fabrizio Meoni here, second on the stage today. He says that we were in very soft sand and going very slowly where I crashed a couple of times. I was worried though that I was going to run out of fuel about 10 kilometers before the finish line, and in fact when I looked in the fuel tanks I could see that I had a litre in one tank and a litre in the other. The Rose des Sables, a humanitarian effort on the Dakar that is really very different from anything else. The crew carries clothes and medical equipment to give to many of the smaller villages on the route of the Dakar rather than the big towns. We are going to stop here and give some medical equipment, but what is different is that we give to villages, not the towns. The medical crews are also here to help. And one of them goes into action helping one of the locals. He says that we are not a known operation, but just on the Dakar is where we operate. And we do a lot better than giving out T-shirts and pens and shoes and the like. And then soon they start to hand out not only some clothes, but some small toys for the locals. Just look at the look on their faces. We don't want to give too much away at this village because we need to be careful to not to keep things going all the way to Dakar. The Rose de Sable, the charity of the Dakar, on the Dakar.
On déplace avec les doigts, à la mode de chez nous.
Well then, we had some navigational problems yesterday to Nouakchott on the Dakar 2001 with the leading runners, and it nearly happened again today. Here we see Hiroshi Mashioka in his short wheelbase silver Mitsubishi with the two-wheel drive buggy of Jean-Louis Schlesser, getting it all crossed up and sideways as they take nearly the same route. Schlesser deciding to come back with Mashioka. But the overall leader in his Pajero, finding that Schlesser was following him, or was Schlesser going to be a lot more cautious today after the big mistake that lost him 56 minutes yesterday? Likewise, with these TV pictures of the two cars together, you can really judge how well one car rides the dunes against another. Some dunes suiting one vehicle better than other dunes. In the end, though, Jean-Louis Schlesser was victorious on the stage by nearly 12 minutes. Not a good day for the former overall leader, Jose Maria Servia. He had a problem with the rear right-hand corner and finished in fourth, some 18 minutes back on the stage. In the middle of the sandstorm, it caught out Mashioka. He lost nearly 8 minutes whilst he dug himself out, and likewise, literally round the corner, Orad in his buggy also lost time, and likewise De La Verne took a big tumble over the top of a dune. Soft sand on top, a harder base underneath were what many people were reporting once they got to the finish, but here is De La Verne after that big nosedive, having problems with the cooling yesterday, let alone today, where the temperatures have been a lot higher than the day before. He's taken the grill out of the front of his Nissan, if only to get a lot more air through the front of it. Then, four machines together, led by Fontenay, Schlesser, Sousa, and Jutta Kleinschmidt. If you want to see how well some machines ride the bumps, you can judge them all here. The Mitsubishi is looking a little tail happy, a little stiffer on the rear than Schlesser's buggy, but then the Schlesser buggy has a lot more suspension travel. Kleinschmidt getting it very tail happy there for a moment, but by the time these four dissipated over the sand, Schlesser was the victor, but Sousa was second in his Mitsubishi. Those 12 minutes behind. Schlesser making a break for it. Sousa was second today, And Jean-Pierre Fontenay in his blue and white Pajero, third, 14 minutes back. The familiar flat exhaust note to many of Mitsubishi's rally raid cars and indeed their World Rally Championship vehicles as they chase Schlesser. Stefan Orard, the Belgian, in his diesel turbo Volkswagen buggy. He lost 1 hour and 10 minutes stuck in the dunes. A shame for him after his brilliant third place the day before. Gregoire de Mavius still having overheating problems with his Nissan. They haven't really put this in the wind tunnel enough, Gregoire saying last night. They need to have a bit more development to try and get a lot more air through the engine bay. De Mavius finishing 50 minutes back of the winner Schlesser. Sabi was just 1 place ahead of De Mavius in his Ford, whilst Kenjiro Shinizuka inside the top 10, but of course massively hamstrung with a 25-hour penalty in the overall classification from a few days before. Philip Volberg, he broke a rear axle and he was going nowhere fast.
Il n'y a pas une journée sans là aujourd'hui. Le pont ou la boîte, on a du mal à déterminer. C'est la même panne que Bruno il y a 3 jours. Donc on ne peut pas essayer en fait à 100 km du départ. On ne voit pas comment on peut aller ce soir.
Quand tu vois l'heure tourner, à partir d'un moment, tu espères que tu vas pouvoir réparer la voiture. Et petit à petit, l'heure tourne et malheureusement, tu sais que tu t'orientes vers l'abandon. C'est un moment très particulier.
Schlesser, the winner by nearly 12 minutes from Portugal's Sousa, Fontenay, Servia and Kleinschmidt all in there. Mashuoka leads overall, but how close is that after nearly 42 hours of rally raiding? Kleinschmidt in third, Schlesser and Servia. A weary Jean-Louis Schlesser here saying, a day of long valleys, of camel grass and of soft sand. And what's more, I've got a stiff neck.
Acho que foi bem.
Sousa here,
Pelos vistos fizemos o segundo tempo, o que é
saying
bastante bom.
the sandstorm came,
Bater os
the
beiros.
camel grass and the soft sand were difficult, and likewise the navigation, but I'm very happy to be faster than Servia in a car that's on paper, he's quicker. We're flat out.
It's a very long day. 580 kilometers. So we are 2 times stuck in the sand, very soft. So we don't have a mechanism of air pressure change system. So very difficult. So lost time maybe 20 minutes.
And the car?
Kind of so good. For yesterday night, mechanics did good work. So now it's good.
The trucks made their laborious way to Tajika today. Some of them even having time to say hello. Karel Lopre in his Tatra, the leader at the checkpoint this morning, whilst the Camos continued to chase. The Japanese in their Hino. The lone right-hand drive truck in the rally. Hard work for a navigator in a truck. Teammate following behind with the sister machine. So then on to stage 13, a looping stage in Mauritania. Tajika is the start and finish points. A round robin stage, and let's hope that there will be no controversy after the last round robin stage a couple of days ago. So the Dakar continues well into the second half of the 23rd running. Dakar is soon on the horizon.